They tell you they are fine. Their words are confident. Their smile is convincing. And you believe them because you are listening to what they say instead of watching what they reveal. Machiavelli never made this mistake. He understood that humans are terrible liars, not because they lack skill, because their bodies betray them constantly. Microexpressions, tension patterns, timing gaps, contradictions between gesture and speech. The truth leaks through 1,000 tiny signals, and most people never notice. Florence, 1506. A nobleman swears loyalty to Machiavelli's prince. The words are perfect. The tone is sincere. The posture is respectful. And Machiavelli knows within 30 seconds that this man will betray them, not through intuition, through observation. The nobleman's hands gripped each other too tightly when he spoke of loyalty. His eyes broke contact for a fraction of a second when he mentioned the future. His smile activated different muscles than genuine pleasure. His breathing changed rhythm when discussing commitment. Tiny signals, invisible to most, obvious to those who know what to watch. 3 months later, the nobleman sided with the prince's enemies. Everyone else was shocked. Machiavelli was not, because he did not listen to promises. He watched bodies. And bodies do not lie, they cannot. The conscious mind controls words. But microexpressions, autonomic responses, involuntary tensions, these reveal truth regardless of intention. This is not mysticism, this is pattern recognition. And once you understand the patterns, reading people becomes automatic. You see fear before they know they are afraid. You detect deception before they finish lying. You recognize desire before they admit wanting. Because their body tells you everything their words try to hide. And the beautiful part? Most people have no idea how much they reveal. They think controlling their face is enough. They believe choosing careful words protects them. They assume that if they maintain eye contact and speak confidently, their performance is believable. But while they are focusing on the performance, their body is broadcasting truth through signals they cannot consciously control. And those who know how to read these signals have an almost supernatural advantage. Not because they are more intelligent, because they are more observant. Machiavelli identified 7 signal categories that reveal what people truly think and feel. Master these 7 and you can read anyone, instantly, accurately, without them ever knowing you are doing it. The first category is facial microexpressions. These are involuntary facial movements that last between 1/15th and 1/5 of a second, too fast for the person experiencing them to suppress. Too fast for most observers to notice consciously. But not too fast to see if you know what to watch for. A genuine smile activates muscles around the eyes, creating crow's feet wrinkles. A fake smile only moves the mouth. The difference is visible for a fraction of a second before the person settles into their performed expression. If you catch that fraction, you know whether the smile is real. Fear flashes across the face as raised eyebrows and widened eyes. For just a moment, before the person composes themselves into whatever expression they want to project, that flash tells you they are afraid even if they are pretending confidence. Contempt appears as a one-sided mouth raise. A tiny sneer, often suppressed immediately. But that micro-expression reveals what the person actually thinks about you or your idea, even if they are saying supportive words. Machiavelli watched faces obsessively. He noted which expressions appeared before conscious control could edit them, and he cataloged what those micro-expressions predicted about future behavior. He discovered that micro-expressions of contempt during negotiation predicted later betrayal. That micro-expressions of fear during commitment indicated eventual abandonment. That absence of genuine positive micro-expressions during agreement meant the agreement was false. The second category is eye behavior. Eyes are remarkable truth-tellers because eye movements are partially involuntary. You can control where you look, but you cannot fully control pupil dilation, blink rate, with the tiny movements your eyes make when accessing different types of information. When people lie, their blink rate often increases. When they are constructing a false memory rather than recalling a real one, their eyes move differently. When they are experiencing genuine emotion, their pupils dilate. When they are faking emotion, pupils stay normal. Machiavelli paid particular attention to eye contact patterns, not the presence or absence of eye contact. The timing. Liars often maintain too much eye contact. They have learned that breaking eye contact signals deception, so they overcompensate. They stare. They lock eyes. And that unnatural sustained contact becomes the tell. Truthful people break eye contact naturally when thinking, when accessing memory, when processing information. Their eye contact fluctuates. Comfortable. Organic. Liars maintain rigid eye contact because they are performing rather than thinking. Machiavelli also watched for eye-blocking behaviors. When people experience something unpleasant, they instinctively want to block it from view. They close their eyes slightly longer than a normal blink. They rub their eyes. They look away. These micro-behaviors reveal negative reaction even when the person is saying positive words. The third category is hand and arm barriers. Humans instinctively protect their torso when they feel threatened or uncertain. This shows up as crossed arms, hands clasped in front of body, or holding objects as shields. The key is not whether someone crosses their arms, it is when they cross their arms. If they cross arms while you are speaking, they are defending against your message. If they cross arms when you ask a question, they are protecting themselves from having to answer honestly. Machiavelli noticed that when people were genuinely comfortable with a proposal, their torso remained open. When they had hidden objections, their arms created barriers. Not always obvious, full crosses. Sometimes just hands meeting in front of body. Sometimes just one arm crossing to hold the other. But always some form of barrier appearing at the exact moment their true reaction conflicted with their stated reaction. The fourth category is leg and foot orientation. This is perhaps the most reliable signal because people rarely think about controlling their lower body. They are so focused on managing their face and words that their legs broadcast truth unconsciously. When someone is interested in you or your message, their feet point toward you. When they want to leave, their feet point toward the exit. When they are attracted to someone, their feet orient toward that person even if their face is looking elsewhere. Machiavelli observed that during tense negotiations, participants' feet revealed their true alliances. A nobleman might be speaking to the prince, but if his feet pointed toward the prince's rival, that revealed where his true interest lay. Feet also reveal comfort and stress. When people are comfortable, their stance is wide and stable. When stressed, they shift weight constantly or cross legs or point one foot backward in a subtle preparation to flee. These leg movements happen unconsciously, and they reveal emotional state more accurately than any verbal claim. The fifth category is voice qualities, not what people say, how they say it. Pitch, pace, volume, and the tiny tremors that enter voice under stress. When people lie, their vocal pitch often rises slightly, not enough to sound like a completely different voice. Just enough that if you are listening for it, you notice. They are experiencing stress from the lie, and that stress tightens their vocal cords, raising pitch. Pace also changes. Some liars speak faster, rushing through the false statement to get it over with. Others speak slower, carefully constructing the lie word by word. The tell is not the absolute pace, it is the change in pace. If someone's speaking rhythm shifts when answering a particular question, that shift marks the answer as potentially false. Machiavelli listened for hesitations and filler words. Genuinely recalled memories flow smoothly. Constructed lies contain micropauses where the person is inventing details. A smooth story is not necessarily true, but a story with unusual hesitation patterns is worth questioning. The sixth category is timing and congruence. This is about whether different signals align or contradict. When someone says, "I'm happy to help," but their hands clench or their smile arrives a half-second after the words. That timing gap reveals deception. Genuine emotion appears across all channels simultaneously. Face, voice, body all express the same thing at the same moment. Performed emotion happens in sequence. First the words, then the facial expression, then the gesture. The tiny lag between channels reveals the performance. Machiavelli watched for these timing incongruencies religiously. When someone's words expressed enthusiasm but their body remained closed and tense, he knew the enthusiasm was false. When someone claimed calm but their breathing was rapid and shallow, he knew they were anything but calm. The seventh category is baseline and deviation. This is the most sophisticated skill. You cannot know what a signal means without knowing what is normal for that person. Everyone has a baseline, their natural way of being when relaxed. The meaningful signals are deviations from that baseline. Some people naturally avoid eye contact. For them, breaking eye contact means nothing. But making unusual sustained eye contact might signal deception. Other people naturally maintain strong eye contact. For them, sustained contact is baseline, but breaking contact is the deviation that matters. Machiavelli spent the first minutes of every interaction observing baseline. How does this person naturally hold their hands? What is their normal speaking pace? How much do they gesture? What is their resting facial expression? Once baseline is established, deviations become obvious. This is why skilled interrogators spend time building rapport before asking difficult questions. They are establishing baseline during comfortable conversation so they can spot deviations when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Now here is what makes this truly powerful. These 7 categories worked together. You never rely on one signal. You watch for clusters. Multiple signals all indicating the same underlying truth. Someone might fake a smile successfully, but if that fake smile appears with closed body language, with feet pointing away, with a slight rise in vocal pitch, and with a timing lag, the cluster reveals deception. Any single signal could be coincidence. 5 signals pointing the same direction is certainty. Machiavelli called this triangulation. You triangulate truth by observing multiple channels simultaneously. Face might lie, body might lie, voice might lie, but all 3 lying in perfect coordination is nearly impossible. Something leaks truth, and once you see that leak, you know where to look for confirmation in other channels. This is why Machiavelli seemed to read minds. He was not reading minds. He was reading bodies, and bodies are terrible conspirators. They coordinate poorly. They forget their lines. They reveal truth through thousands of micro-betrayals. But here's what most people get wrong when they first learn about these signals. They start looking for deception everywhere. They become paranoid. They see lies in every micro-expression. This is the amateur's trap. Skilled observers do not look for lies. They look for truth. They watch for genuine signals that confirm what is being said. When those genuine signals appear, they trust the message. When those signals are absent or contradicted, they become cautious. But they do not immediately assume deception, because sometimes people are just nervous. Sometimes they are uncomfortable for reasons unrelated to dishonesty. Sometimes they are distracted or tired or in pain. Not every deviation means lying. Every deviation means something. Your job is to figure out what. Machiavelli distinguished between hotspots and proof. A hotspot is a signal cluster that indicates something is worth investigating. It is not proof of deception. It is a flag that says, pay attention here. Once you spot a hotspot, you probe gently. You ask follow-up questions. You observe whether the signals intensify or relax. You gather more information before concluding. This is the difference between skilled observation and amateur mind reading. Amateurs jump to conclusions. Professionals gather data. They watch patterns over time. They test hypotheses. They allow for alternative explanations. And they are right far more often because they do not rush to judgment. Now let me address the question everyone has. What do you do with this information? How do you use the ability to read people, First, understand that reading people is not the same as exposing them. Just because you see someone is lying does not mean you should announce it. Often, letting them think you believe the lie is your more strategic advantage than confronting them. Machiavelli frequently let people think their deceptions were working. He smiled, he nodded, he appeared convinced, and internally he cataloged exactly what they were trying to hide and why. That information became leverage later, far more useful than the momentary satisfaction of catching them in a lie. Second, use this skill to protect yourself. The primary value of reading people is defense. You avoid partnerships with secretly hostile people. You do not invest resources in those who plan to betray you. You protect yourself from manipulation by seeing it coming. Machiavelli did not use this skill to exploit people. He used it to avoid being exploited. Huge difference. Knowing when someone is lying to you prevents you from making decisions based on false information. That is not manipulation. That is survival. Third, use this skill to communicate better. When you see that someone is uncomfortable with a proposal but claiming agreement, you can address the hidden objection. I notice some hesitation. What concerns you? This gives them permission to voice what they were hiding. Often, addressing the real objection creates better outcomes than accepting the false agreement. Reading people makes you more effective at helping them, because you can see what they need even when they cannot articulate it or are afraid to admit it. This is not manipulation. This is genuine understanding, creating genuine connection. Fourth, recognize your own signals. Once you understand what leaks truth, you become aware of your own leaks. You notice when your body is broadcasting discomfort even as you claim to be fine. You catch your own micro-expressions of contempt or fear or desire. This self-awareness lets you choose whether to let those signals show or to address the underlying emotion. You do not become a better liar. You become more congruent. Either you acknowledge the emotion and deal with it, or you genuinely resolve it so the signals stop appearing. Either way, you become harder to read because you eliminate the gap between what you feel and what you project. Machiavelli was remarkably difficult to read, not because he was a master liar, because he cultivated genuine emotional control. He did not fake calm. He achieved calm. He did not suppress contempt. He genuinely considered ideas without immediate judgment. His body had little to betray because his emotional state aligned with his strategic requirements. This is the ultimate level. Not performing emotion, not hiding emotion. Cultivating the actual emotional state that serves your purposes. This creates perfect congruence. Your words, face, body, and voice all align because they all arise from genuine internal state. Nothing to read because nothing is being hidden. Now here is the hardest truth about reading people. The more skilled you become, the lonelier you get. Because you see through performance constantly. You notice when people are faking interest, faking agreement, faking affection, and while this protects you, it also isolates you. Because you realize how much of human interaction is performance, how rarely people are genuine, how often they say what they think you want to hear rather than what they actually think, and once you see this pattern, you cannot unsee it. Machiavelli lived with this loneliness. He saw through everyone, constantly, and it made genuine connection almost impossible. Because genuine connection requires vulnerability. Requires believing what people tell you about themselves. And when you can see the gap between their claims and their truth, belief becomes difficult. This is the cost of this skill. You gain accuracy. You lose innocence. You can protect yourself from deception, but you also lose the comfort of taking people at their word. Every interaction becomes analysis. Every statement becomes a puzzle to solve. And that analytical distance prevents the kind of uncomplicated trust that creates deep relationships. Machiavelli accepted this trade-off. He valued safety over connection, accuracy over comfort, strategic advantage over emotional intimacy. And he built a life that was powerful but isolated, respected but not loved, effective but lonely. You must decide whether that trade-off serves you, whether the ability to read anyone instantly is worth the cost of never fully relaxing into relationship, whether protecting yourself from deception is worth seeing deception everywhere. There is no right answer, only honest acknowledgement of what you are choosing and why. Machiavelli chose power through observation. He gained that power, and he paid its price. The question is whether you are willing to pay the same price for the same power. Because make no mistake, this skill is power, the ability to see what others hide, to predict behavior through body language, to know when you are being deceived, to understand what people truly want regardless of what they claim. This is a significant advantage in every domain: business, politics, relationships, negotiations, survival. But it comes with cost, cynicism, distance, the burden of seeing truth that others miss, the responsibility of knowing things people do not realize they have revealed, the loneliness of perfect observation. Machiavelli bore that burden for decades. He watched, he cataloged, he understood, and he used that understanding to survive in one of the most treacherous political environments in history. He read everyone, trusted almost no one, and maintained his position not through force but through perfect information. 500 years later, the signals remain the same. Human bodies still leak truth through micro-expressions, vocal qualities, timing gaps, and baseline deviations. The patterns Machiavelli documented still predict behavior, still reveal hidden intention, still give those who can read them an almost unfair advantage. The question is not whether this knowledge is powerful. The question is whether you have the discipline to use it wisely, the emotional strength to bear what you see, the strategic intelligence to know when to act on what you observe and when to let it pass, and the self-awareness to monitor your own signals while reading others. This is not a party trick. This is not amateur psychology. This is a systematic skill that requires thousands of hours of observation to master. Machiavelli spent his lifetime developing it. You will not master it from one video, but you can begin. You can start watching for these 7 categories. You can practice spotting clusters. You can calibrate your observations against outcomes. And over time, you will develop the same skill that made Machiavelli seem supernatural: the ability to read anyone instantly, accurately, without them knowing you are doing it. Not through magic, through observation, through pattern recognition, through the discipline of watching what people reveal rather than what they claim. The body never lies. It cannot. It lacks the coordination to maintain perfect deception. Somewhere, somehow, truth leaks through. Your only choice is whether to develop the skill to see that truth, or to remain among those who listen to words while missing everything that matters. Machiavelli made his choice. He saw everything. He trusted nothing. And he survived while others fell. That is not a prescription. That is a description of what observation enables and what observation costs. The choice, as always, is yours.